Connolly Drummond, and tonight I am so excited to introduce to you and welcome to the Slow It Down space my daughter. Zakia is joining me today on Slow It Down Sunday for a special Mother's Day treat to me, and I get to share with all of you. So, welcome, Zakia. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. She got me on camera. That's a lot.
So, Zakia, introduce yourself to the audience. They know me. It's been an honor to be your mom. I'm so thankful that God blessed me with the opportunity to parent and to give me the gift of you. And I've always thought of you and thought of mothering and being a mom as a gift, as an opportunity. And I hope that that has came across in the way that we have lived over the last
32 years? 32 and almost a half.
yes.
So I'm Zakia Becca, daughter to Arlene Connolly Drummond. Wow, what do I share? Licensed marriage and family therapist. That license is new. Really excited about that. But honestly, I'm here because the honor is mine. Having you as a mom has been the gift that keeps on giving. And I know you say that, you know, it's been an honor for you, but honestly, I can't go anywhere and someone not know you or know of you. And I get as excited as I know you tell me you do when you get to talk about me. I get that excited to talk about you, maybe even more so, even you might not realize. um, because I've gotten to watch the force that you are, the force that you've always been. I've seen the ups and the downs, the good and the bad. Um, and as much as being on camera is not my favorite thing, I do it for you. Yep,
Thank you.
of
Thank
course.
you. So today we invite you into our space. We love spending time together,
Hmm.
and I cherish our time. I cherish our moments, and I wanted to engage us in conversation today. You know, I always talk about what Slow It Down Sunday is about and how that came about. And um, Zakia has been such an instrumental part of this journey that I'm on in regards to slowing it down. And so I just want to remind us why we're here. So, yes, it's Mother's Day, but today is our Slow It Down Sunday moment, the time in which we pause, we slow it down, we make a conscious decision to prioritize ourselves, to embrace the power of rest, embrace the gift of what it means to honor our bodies, honor our spirit, honor the fact that we are important, that we're valuable, and that we are deserving of rest and we're deserving to slow down. And that when we slow down, it doesn't mean that we're lazy, it doesn't mean that we're being unproductive, but it actually is some of the most productive time we can spend
Hmm.
when we slow down. And I've spent the last week, it's been a very busy week,
Hmm.
and I feel exhausted. And so um, just the idea of pausing to recalibrate and reflect and to even prepare and position ourselves for the week ahead. But today, I just want to savor this time and engage in some dialogue around what this whole thing about slowing down has been as you're seeing it, knowing me. Yes.
Well, I mean, before we even get into that, I think as you mentioned, reflecting and um, slowing it down after a busy week, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What is one moment that you can say? Now, if I go back to my camp years,
Hmm.
they'd say like warm fuzzies. What was one warm fuzzy moment in your week?
Ooh,
A positive moment.
I had a couple.
Okay, well, give me as many as you
Ah,
want.
So it's been an amazing week. So on Thursday, I got to speak on a panel
Mm-hmm.
about fatherhood
Mm-hmm.
and the power of fathers and their role in the family. And I got a chance to talk about um, how your dad and I have worked together in raising you and how it's possible for parents, even though they are not together, to still make sure that they are showing up positively in the lives of their children. And as I shared my story of my history with my dad and how I came about writing Let Your Daddy Lift You Up,
Mm-hmm.
Healing Daddy Issues to Build Healthy Relationships, the audience was so blessed by my vulnerability and my sharing. And it was healing and affirmative for so many people that the event ended at 2 and it was almost 4 o'clock and people were still there wanting to talk
Mm,
and share because it impacted them, men and women.
I
And
love
so
that.
that was good for me because it's always affirming. Um, your story has a message. That was affirming. That was Thursday. And then Friday, I got to go to a conference and spend the day with Michael and my husband, and we uh, got to see both of our businesses like right next to each other, and we were talking and engaging, and he was representing the keynote speaker for the day, like with all the tech stuff, and just watching him do his thing. So proud. So that was just, I had like many proud and joyful moments, and then seeing people
Mm-hmm.
who I haven't seen in a while, and just the way they greet and welcome, just the warmth and excitement to see us and to see me and learn about what we're doing. That was awesome.
Okay.
And then
Yesterday.
yesterday, I got to do one of my favorite things.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, at 6 in the morning, Michael and I went to the beach. We caught the sunrise, um, and just relax, spend some time, just being in awe of God's glory and the ebbs and flows of the water. And there was a gentleman who went out swimming, older gentleman,
Okay.
and the waves were kind of rough.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, Michael, I don't see the guy. And
Mm-hmm.
so we were getting worried.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, should we let the
Lifeguard know.
lifeguards know? Like, and I mean, I'm there getting nervous. And Michael just said, let's pray. And so we prayed. And then, like, maybe like a little while later, we kept on looking and I'm looking. I'm like, I think I'm going to, tell the lifeguard. And then we see the head of the guy. And
Bobbing around in the water.
yes, but he swam like, I
Out.
mean, far. And and then as he came out of the water, and I told him, I said, we were worried. We were about to call someone. He was just like, thank you for worrying about me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a human moment
Mm-hmm.
of just concern for a fellow human being, like
Mm-hmm.
that he was okay, and he was just so thankful.
Yeah.
So those were my good days.
Your good moments.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I wanted to ask that because so often we get to that point of like slowing it down or relaxing, but at the end of our busy weeks, and we just kind of like, plop on the couch, turn on the TV, watch whatever we're going to watch. I know for me, I scroll way too much on TikTok. um, but don't really reflect on some of the good moments that we have, and then we let a lot of the negativity take over. It's easy to let it take over when you don't acknowledge the positive, even if they're small. They may seem small, but
Look at that.
look at you. Look at you. You were supposed to be on mute too. Mm-mm-mm. But no.
I actually am.
But just as much as we are slowing it down to relax, I think it is good to acknowledge and show some gratitude for those good moments we have throughout the week, because life is testy, and it's really easy to let those tests take over and feel like life isn't going well when you don't take the time to acknowledge the good stuff.
So what was yours?
Um, I don't know that I have a specific moment that I'm like, ooh, this was the moment for the week. But I did enjoy spending a lot of my week updating my signatures on everything and updating my Psychology Today profile to reflect my licensure since it's so new. So
I'm
that was
so excited.
that was my thing. And like I said, it seems small, but for me, I was like, oh, look at me! I get to put LMFT behind everything. So that was my, because I got to do it a lot on different accounts.
But it's not small. Just reflect a little bit on the journey
Well, the
to get there.
licensure is not small, but making those little changes are little small things reflecting on the big accomplishment, I guess. That's more so what I meant.
Okay. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So as you are listening to us reflect on our day, I'm just curious for each and every one of you, if you will pause as we're doing today to reflect on your week and think about those moments, those spaces in which you found time for joy, for laughter, for peace, for sharing, for caring, for yourself or for others, for just pausing and smelling the roses, like they would say, or just breathing the air. We're here in South Florida, and it was a nice week. We had a couple of nice days,
Yeah, hot, but nice.
hot but nice, and so I am. I'm just thankful that we're here.
Yeah.
I'm in that spirit of thankfulness because I'm here, but I'm. There's also I have a heaviness,
Yeah.
but um, and I know today is like a challenging day for many.
For a lot of people,
For
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 many reasons,
right,
whether they've lost a mom, or they've lost a child, or they didn't have the opportunity to become a mom because of whatever reasons, either they can't have children,
right.
or you know uh, lost a baby. There's a lot of, this is a tough day for a lot of people, for sure.
It is. It is. Um, how do we navigate through that as we seek the moment to just give ourselves space to allow ourselves to feel it?
I think the biggest thing is grace. We don't give ourselves enough grace. um, the grief process is such a complicated experience, and too many people focus on, oh, I need to reach all the different stages of grief, and I need to make sure I do this and make sure the only thing I'll say is the wrong way is avoiding it.
Mm,
That's really it, because as long as you're giving yourself the space to feel it, to express it, to acknowledge both the sadness and the joy that comes from knowing, um, knowing that maybe you had that person, or the memories that you may have. Um, Allow for all of those things. Allow for you to be angry, and um, those moments you're gonna be like, oh, what if I did this differently? What if they did this differently? Um, just allow for all of that to come and go as it does. And when you're not having a good day, maybe you need to just not have a good day, and don't force yourself to
mm,
be in a good space all the time. it's actually more work sometimes to try to force yourself to be in a good space.
Mhm.
Um, because there's not just the heaviness of the grief that you're feeling, there's also the pressure you're now putting on yourself to keep going, to push forward. And a lot of times, I know with some of my clients, the ones that have the hardest times are the ones that are pushing themselves to meet expectations of others rather than allowing themselves to experience their grief and what's happening and going through it. You know, the moments when you're going to cry, the moments when you're going to say, you know, I wish this person was here. I wish I got to see this. Because you're grieving so many things. You know, for example, if you did lose a child, for example, there's the what if I had done something differently to care for them? There's the missed moments, the missed opportunities they'll never get to experience that you hoped for, because
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
what parents do. You know, you
Yeah.
have all these ideas and visions and expectations of what and who your children will be. And aside from the fact that you don't really get to 100% decide that, um, you know, it is that's another layer of that grief. And if it's you know, a mom or a grandmother or something like that, it's, oh, you know, those moments like, oh, I wish they were here for these moments, I wish I could call them in this moment. And just when those happen, let them happen. Sometimes you need to sit with it by yourself, sometimes you need to call on someone for support. But knowing the difference is important, because a lot of people tend to fully isolate themselves and not allow their support system to be there for them. And that's definitely not a healthy way to go about it.
The wise. You
Mm-hmm.
know, as I'm listening to you, I have so many points I just wanted to touch on there. The allowing yourself not to have a good day.
Mm-hmm.
That is not something people hear a lot,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and I really think it's important that we share with our audience, with our group, with our community, giving ourselves that permission to allow ourselves to know that not every day is going to be a good day. We know that, but um, we we put on a fake facade sometimes of everything being okay when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Back to what you said about trying to meet the expectations of others.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would like us to, even if we can dive into that a little bit, because I know as parents, we impose some of our expectations
Yeah.
on our children,
Mm-hmm.
um, and sometimes don't give them space for the growth and for their development that they need, because we're almost smothering, or
Mm-hmm.
we are, in some cases, overcompensating, or
Mm-hmm.
um, sometimes controlling.
Yeah.
And in that lane, putting on the effort so heavy that we neglect self because we're trying so much for everyone else that self gets neglected, right? And then we're no good because we're supposed to be mirroring, right? We're supposed to be showing up because our kids are looking at us. Remember, I would say to you as you're growing up, I say as a kid, take the good stuff that I've worked on and don't take the stuff that I'm
Yeah,
still
that's
working on.
just
And
another version of do what I say, not what I do. And that it doesn't work.
no, it doesn't work.
Because especially as children, you are you're learning from the people around you, you're learning from what you see,
Yeah,
especially when you're really young, because you don't understand most of the world.
right.
Everything is new, everything is fresh, everything is different. So the do what I say, not what I do doesn't really, it's not realistic,
Yeah.
because I'm literally going to do everything that you show me. Actually, and then some of the things you say, I'm going to repeat. um, so I think it's a lot of um, exploring. Okay, well, why are we doing these things? I think is helpful. If you're really trying to get some understanding, but even to what you were saying, you were talking about the facade that we put on, and I know as women, because it's Mother's Day, and as um, even women who aren't traditionally mothers, you've mothered someone in some way. So that's why I'm just putting kind of women in that category for right now. But you know, hmm, we there's so much pressure, and it's interesting. There's been a theme with my clients over the last few weeks, and I've said it to a few of them, like women go through so much.
Yeah.
And being moms especially, I don't know how y'all do it. As someone who's not a mom yet, I at least not a mom, like I said, in the traditional sense. I just have my 30 something plant children, but
And your godchildren.
and my godchild, yes. But yeah, so there's so much expectation. You're supposed to be naturally nurturing. You're supposed to just love on people, give, share, serve. You're supposed to feed everyone. You're supposed to care for everyone. You're supposed to clean after everyone. Where are you left in that? And so it's also very hard to let down a facade when you've lost yourself. And I think so many moms have lost themselves somewhere along the line of motherhood, whether or not they're married, whether or not they are with their, you know, the parent to the child, the other parent. There, you've lost something there because I don't think we talk enough about how much motherhood, pregnancy, the entire journey of it all changes us
Yeah.
as women, and so adding that plus all the other things that are happening in life, like we're talking about,
Yeah.
and trying to process grief, and not just grief of someone lost, grief of missed opportunities,
Yeah.
um, grief of maybe a life you thought you would have had before your children that maybe you're not able to have. Not that it's your kid's fault, but it, you know, having those children change their circumstance. Um, you know, grieving a relationship that maybe isn't the same as it once was before the children were there. There's so many different things. So you're doing all of that, and then you have to show up for everyone. When do you have time for you? And do the people around you allow you to have that time? I say you have to take it. And that's one of the things, as you mentioned, the giving ourselves permission. I say, who needs permission?
Mm.
Just take it. You know, I've had to tell a few people recently, like, oh, I'm not having a good day, and then take the day.
Mm-hmm.
Take the day and claim it for what you need,
Yeah.
so that you can show up better tomorrow. Just take the day. Because what's going to happen? You're going to push and struggle through today and tomorrow, and then by the time you have that moment for yourself when you're supposed to slow it down, there's nothing left. You're not even slowed down. You're at a stop. There's a standstill. It's different.
Yeah.
You're not even able to enjoy the slower moments because you're spent.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked about that last week. Um, about what it means to truly care about ourselves, and how challenging that process can be for so many of us, because we are we're so used to almost being that overachiever, that overdoer, that all those names and spaces we are expected to show up, that we do it um, to a fault, to a detriment, to so I shared with everyone last week that I wanted to be able to slow down enough that we are not moving at a pace where we are not listening and acknowledging when our body is speaking. I
Mm-hmm.
was talking about the body speaks. Are you listening? And that if we ignore the signs that our body is telling us, that we can find ourselves after the body has whispered for so long, it
Mm-hmm.
will scream to the
Mm-hmm.
point it may yell. And by the time it's yelling, you're in crisis
Yeah.
and many times going in an ambulance, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not the way we want to be responsive to life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really, I really would like to encourage each and every one of us that as we are moving through this space called living, in the roles that we show up in, as a mom, as a caregiver, as an auntie, cousin, all the different labels
Mm-hmm.
of relationships that we show up, where we are nurturing, caring, giving of ourselves to others,
Mm-hmm.
leading, building, creating, all the things that women are doing, that we make sure that we are priority in those roles. And I really believe 100% priority is I'm first.
Mm-hmm.
And most people think about that as selfish.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say you're being selfish, you're being self centered because you're prioritizing you. But I've learned that I am no good to anyone else if I'm not okay.
Yep.
And I can't say that there were people in my life in the early stages of my life that were giving me that guidance and advice. It's more evolved understanding, an evolved awareness,
Mm-hmm.
an evolved consciousness that says I have to be okay. You heard it in little spurts, but not at the level of intentionality that we're getting to hear it more so now.
Mm-hmm.
Your generation has it a lot more on lock in terms of awareness than previous generations. And I'm saying that especially culturally,
Mm-hmm.
from the islands, if you are resting or, sleeping or whatever,
You're lazy.
lazy,
Mm-hmm.
that would have been the translation. And it's like such an oxymoron because the island pace is a slower pace.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more relaxed space, a lot more fun space, but there's a strong work ethic of
Yeah.
productivity.
They're very much time and place.
Yeah, so um, I just want us to know that pacing ourselves and giving ourselves that grace that you talked about and loving on ourselves so we can love on others, it's an essential.
Yeah. And I would say the thing with my generation, I am a millennial. I think a lot of what we are presenting, some of it is some of it is survival because I know people say that millennials complain a lot, but we've seen a lot in a short span of time. If you think about
There's been a
if you
lot.
think about it, millennials are what, 81 ish, 1981 to like 96. A lot of things happened in that time and since, we've seen a lot happen. A lot of things we maybe didn't understand, but we watched our parents go through it and try to navigate it. And I think a lot of why we function the way we do is watching those before us do some of the things that they say, oh, we just figured it out. And we're saying, we watched you figure it out. And it didn't look fun. So
It wasn't.
we'd like to try something else. Just a little bit different. Some things we have no choice and we have to make it happen. But there are some things it's like, well, do we have to do it that way? One of my favorite things to say, and I to anybody, is just because something was always done one way doesn't mean it was right.
That's right.
Right? So it doesn't necessarily mean it was wrong, but there are multiple ways to get to one destination. Right?
Absolutely.
There's multiple ways to get to a similar outcome.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be all done one way. Things change. If we were to always do things the same way, how would we function in the technology?
It's called growth.
Right? It's growth. So I think, we get some credit, because not from everybody, we get some credit for the things that we're doing differently, but I think it's important to give the credit to the older generations, not so much for doing the things or showing the example, but paving the way for the change.
Yeah.
And there was more intention in some of the things you all did than you may have even realized, because most of the people that I know, they'll tell me, oh, their parents, their main thing was, oh, we want your life to be better than ours. Majority, yes. Right? There's always gonna be the outlier who's just like, well, I suffered through, so you suffer through. But you know, majority of parents really wanted us to have better.
Yes.
Whatever that looks like to them, they wanted, and they worked hard, and they strived for better. Has it added some pressure? Sure. But it also has shown us, okay, well, there was intention behind making sure our lives were better. So we're taking that and making sure our lives are better, not just for us, but for those who are coming after us, right? And so one of the things that I always remember, which I didn't realize what it was until becoming a mental health professional, is some of the things you've taught me, with regulating my emotions, right? Like, so something that I didn't realize was a grounding technique that I know now I can refer to it as that. Kind of what you said with I can't show up as my best if I haven't, given myself the grace. And even those moments when I was young and I wasn't processing my emotions in a way that was received well, and I was be told, hey, if you're gonna say something disrespectful, you're gonna, if I was gonna come at you crazy, step away, take time for yourself, collect yourself, and then come back. That was teaching me emotional regulation, something that a lot of people didn't think of in that way, but that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it wasn't always received well from everyone when I wanted to do that, but it helped me so much as an adult. It's like, okay, well, I need to step away, take some time, and sometimes I still do the same thing, which is go and sit in the bathroom on the floor in the dark. Literal grounding. Sitting on the floor in the dark and just like taking some breaths and collecting myself before I then say, all right, well, I gotta take on the day.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to white knuckle life. We don't have to.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we force ourselves to.
That's a moment for breath. I just like to take a breath there. Oh, I'm learning to do that a little bit more every day. Every day, I shared with some folks that, and I think I said this to you, that I was struggling at first to do Slow It Down Sunday, or just this new walk, because I'm so used to being go. And I didn't want to come before the people to present something that I'm still working through. But I'm so glad that God gave me grace and said to me, I didn't ask you to have arrived. I asked you to invite people on the journey with you. And I'm so happy that I get to do this journey with each and every one of you who choose to join me on Slow It Down Sunday. Because every time I'm in a group, you know, the previous week I did an event where we had massages and facials and all this kind of stuff for women who are in leadership and serving. And it was just so refreshing to not just talk about how you're caring for yourself, but for us to actually be in the space to do it and share that time together. And just the opportunity for us to live it more and talk about it less, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at right now. I don't want to, yes, I'm here, I'm talking to you about it, but I want to continually be active about it, actively pursuing,
Active or intentional?
intentional,
Because you're
but
talking about slowing it down and then
I
active.
know, but what I want to make sure is that I'm not just talking about.
You're walking it.
I want to walk it, and
I got you.
that's being active. I want to actively slow down
Mm-hmm.
with intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to do that. And I'm encouraging each and every one of us to do it more, to practice the art of doing nothing and be okay about it.
Mm-hmm.
Not, I'm doing nothing and oh my gosh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And we're feeling guilty. We're not really relaxing. We're not really slowing down. If I am so consumed with emotions and mental fatigue because I am over processing just the idea of selecting myself for a moment and just resting.
Yeah.
I really invite us to, and it's a new muscle for us to build because many of us have not been practicing it. We are in a world that applauds the grind, applauds the hustle, applauds that you have to in order to succeed.
I vote jumping off the hamster wheel.
Yeah, I don't want to be on I don't want to be on the wheel.
I vote jump off. Because why? Sometimes you just. I even said that to you today.
Yeah,
There are days where you just have to be like, well, you know what? I just don't. I'm not going to. Not because of anything other than I don't want to.
yeah.
Sometimes you need that. And I think one of the things for me, what's making it easier for me, it's not necessarily the work I do. It's after finding out or learning of my ADHD diagnosis, it's been a lot of that. It's been a lot of, okay, well, sometimes functioning is just hard for me. And so rather than feeling guilty about it, I have to. I if if I don't allow myself to relax sometimes, the times when I need to be active and I need to be um, focused and getting things done, I won't have it because I've literally spent it all. Um, I need those things that are going to replenish my energy because I'm constantly, as someone with ADHD, constantly chasing the dopamine, the excitement, the thing that makes me feel good. Um, and like I said in the beginning, oftentimes life doesn't feel good.
Hmm.
And so if you don't, if you don't, well, I'm speaking for myself right now. If I don't allow myself that rest time, or I don't say, okay, today I really don't have it, and what I have going on is not mandatory, I can switch around, I can change my day, I can adjust my schedule today. Sometimes I just have to, sometimes I have to cancel a plan or say no or not answer the phone because I just don't, it's too much. I don't want to, I don't have to, and I'm not going to. Sometimes I have to fully lean into that so that those days when I actually have to, I need to show up for myself and for others, that I have the capacity to do so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what
So,
what would we like to invite our listeners to practice and take hold of this week? So you
hmm.
said some things. You said take the day.
Yes, take it, claim it.
Um, I've given that advice before, but I wanna
got you.
activate
I
it.
think I have something, and you can tell me if you've given this before. Um, Sometimes when we have those, oh, I'm supposed to do this, I have to do this, I should be doing this. I challenge people to ask says who?
Hmm.
Who says? And if it's not you, what authority does that person have?
Mm. What authority have you given them?
Right. No,
Because
but sometimes they have an authority. Like, let's say it's a boss,
hmm
right? And yes, they're saying you have to get this done, but you know your schedule. You know when the assignment, the task is due. Do you have a moment to take the day? And if not, what can you do towards it so you put that to the side and you move forward? Is there something that you can delegate to make that task easier for you?
that piece right there, that piece right there. So let's just look at this little exercise. Want to give everyone this opportunity to consider this. I love, we talk about journaling all the time, right? And the power of journaling. So if you have your journal, I'm going to encourage you to do this in your journal. But if you don't, like we always say, get a sheet of paper. But
Mm-hmm.
remember when I told you all to do a time audit, or to do an energy audit, whichever one you want to do. But let's say you look at all the things that are on your list
Mm-hmm.
to do, right? The things, and I like to brain dump
Mm-hmm.
and write them all down and then begin to dissect them and look and see which are your non negotiables. Like these must get done,
Are they
right?
non-negotiables or are they time sensitive?
It may not be time sensitive. So, for example, right, a non negotiable, right, is I gotta eat. Like that's a
Okay.
non-negotiable
Mm-hmm.
for me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So having lunch, having dinner, doing those things, doing my things that preserve me
Mm-hmm.
are non-negotiables,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I
Mm-hmm.
have to do those things. Um, I have commitments, some commitments that are truly I bring are important to me that have great value. Um, I assess them that they're important, so I have those. But it's really important to identify what are those things that we think we need to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
but we really don't. To your point, that we could delegate, that we could outsource,
Or could leave for tomorrow.
leave for tomorrow.
Like, I understand the whole, oh, I don't want to procrastinate thing. I get it. But are you procrastinating or are you actively leaving it for a different time? Because one of the things that I've realized is if I sit to do something and I don't really have the capacity or energy to do it, it's beyond, oh, you're just being lazy. It's really, I don't have it. And if I sit there and try to force myself to do
It's
it,
just wasted time.
it's wasted. It is exactly wasted time because I'm going to belabor it. I'm going to sit there and look at it. I'm going to think about it. Like, this is just not getting done. But those times where I'm like, you know what? I don't have it. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to step away and I'm either going to come back to it later today or tomorrow. When I get back to it, it's like done because now I have replenished energy, time, and attention to really give to it. I'm no longer putting that unnecessary pressure on myself that it has to be in this very moment. So it may not even always be like, oh, do it tomorrow. Sometimes it's, I know I said I wanted to get this done by 2 o'clock, but it doesn't have to be. It's not a time sensitive
Mm-hmm.
situation that it gets done by 2 o'clock. So we're gonna pause. Maybe I'm gonna. Maybe I need to eat because I haven't eaten. Maybe I need to go to the bathroom because I've been sitting here saying I won't get up until I finish.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have another task that you can do to get a break from that one and come back. I do
Hmm.
that a lot. Because sometimes that's just what you need. Sometimes you need to step away and, readjust.
Again, I know you said one of the things you said was when I said give ourselves permission, and
Mm-hmm.
you said, who do you need permission from, right? Um, I find that as we sometimes try to self-regulate
Mm-hmm.
our, to self-regulate,
Mm-hmm.
we impose certain parameters and self expectations,
Mm-hmm.
standards that sometimes it's not even externally
Mm-hmm.
that's adding the pressure. We're doing it to
That's
ourselves.
part of why the says who question is so
Yeah.
important, because when the says who is you, then you get to say, okay, but why am I saying this? And is this an original message from me, or did it come from somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
And if it came from somewhere else, how important is that source? If it's coming from me, why am I giving myself this pressure? Why, you get to start asking yourself things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like that says who. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, because a lot of times we're following these arbitrary rules that we don't have to follow. We were given free will, and a lot of people use it for things that aren't positive, that aren't good, that aren't healthy, that aren't safe.
Mm-hmm.
Deciding to send an email in 2 hours rather than in those 5 minutes, you'll be okay.
Deciding not to answer every phone call.
It'll be okay.
Yeah. Deciding that you don't have to answer the email right now.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's okay.
Hmm.
And the more that we can do that, Zakia, um, I'm around a bunch of people and I'm watching the level of drain that's on people. You've said it, we've said it in different conversations that we're not okay.
We are not.
We're not
We're
okay.
mentally, emotionally, physically spent.
And I'm seeing it on on the people. I'm
Yeah.
seeing it on my fellow human beings
Yeah.
that are in my proximity,
Hmm.
I'm watching people um trying to push forward,
Hmm.
but the drain of all the things that are going on, it's taking a toll
Yeah.
on their physical, their mental, and these are people that society we would designate that these are the strong ones, and they are the
Are they all a
resilient
bunch of
ones.
black women? Because if they are,
No,
okay, I was about to
they're
say,
not.
toss some of
I'm
that in the
actually
garbage.
seeing, I'm actually seeing,
You mean like mentally, emotionally strong, the people that you would assume? Is
yeah,
that it?
people who are accomplished.
Okay.
They have great tenacity.
Mhm.
They're resilient.
Mhm.
They seek to live pretty balanced,
Mhm.
tempered lives. And I'm seeing that the constant stimulus, and I really believe that I keep saying it, that we went from the pandemic, right, of
We
crazy,
talk about this all the time.
right, and we jumped back into the world, and we we are not okay.
No, and honestly, what I always say is that increased anxiety,
Yeah.
because that fear of the unknown, which is basically that's the most basic way to define anxiety. Um, we were thrust into that
Yeah.
for at least a year and a half. I'm
Mm.
obviously COVID still exists and it hasn't gone away, and people are still struggling with it, and things like that. People are still not doing well, and passing and all of that. But my point is, as a collective country, world, society, we were thrust into this unknown. We didn't know what was going to happen at any given time. We didn't know how we were going to continue to operate in our jobs, in our companies and businesses, at school. Um, no one was on the road. We saw how much nature changed because People
Mhm.
weren't outside as much, and so many different things. And then it's like everyone said, "Well, it's over. Everybody get right back to how you were before March whatever 2020." That, whose idea was that?
Business people.
Like every time I think about it, because as I in my work every day, I hear and I see things, and I'm like, when did some of this start? And then very rarely is it, oh, it started this time way before the pandemic. Sometimes it started way before, but around that time is when things heightened. Even if they don't realize it, as you start to really talk through it, it's like, oh, this is when things got a little bit more crazy, a little bit more intense,
Mhm.
mentally and emotionally. And we we went from that to just go right back into the busy, and then everything in the world is going on, and we're bombarded with so much information. one of the things that One of the things I love and hate about TikTok is how much information you're able to get. You're so connected with everyone, not just in our country, but in so many other countries, and you're able to learn and understand so many parts of the world that you would have never had access to, and I love that. But also, it's too much. Sometimes it's like, I really didn't want to know that, actually. I really would have been okay living my life not knowing that one little fact.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, so it's too we know too much
Mhm.
sometimes, and then not enough other times.
So, in practicing the pace,
Uh-huh.
pacing ourselves and really assessing and identifying when it's too much, how we and I've done some episodes around this where I talk about how I protect my peace. How do we
Mhm.
protect our peace? How do we
Mm.
care for ourselves? How do we honor our well-being by um you know I I'm not spending um hours watching the news. I'm not spending multiple hours on scrolling. Um, Sometimes it's because I'm too busy, but most times it's that, yeah, I don't want to. But then for me, because Zakia is on it, she's going to say, Mommy, did you hear? And give me the alert. And um, I just want us to, because I believe every one of our listeners in some shape or form is probably dealing with this. What are some tools we want to be able to share with them, or strategies or way forward to just better manage um, how we are processing and dealing with all the stimulus of information and
So, slightly loaded question, because there's so many tools out there, and some will work for you, some won't. Some will work for you for certain situations, some will work for you for others. But that phrase that you say, protecting my peace,
Mhm.
that's another one I have a love hate relationship with, because I often, and this is with a lot of now the mental health jargon, we kind of have that social media mental health where there are a lot of professionals who are putting out really great information, but there are a lot of people who have just decided, I'm this guru and I'm just going to say all these things and da, 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 da. And then there's a lot of misinformation and words that are used incorrectly. And oftentimes when I hear, oh, I'm just protecting my peace, too often I hear it when someone's trying to avoid something they should be dealing with,
Mhm.
something or someone they should be dealing with.
Mhm.
And so I would just really caution everyone to not protect your peace so much that you become avoidant, because then you're really not protecting peace, you're only maintaining tension.
Mhm.
Because when you have no choice but to face it, you're not going to be prepared to handle it, because
Mhm.
you've been avoiding and avoiding and avoiding, not so much protecting your peace, but you're avoiding it. Then there's also your mind and body are going to naturally protect you from certain things
Mm-hmm.
because that's what it's made for,
Yep,
right?
self-preservation.
And so there are certain things that you're kind of what you were saying earlier about your mind is going to start saying, hey, your body's going to start saying, hey, this thing is not working for you. I think those are the things to really look at when it comes to protecting your peace. Like, what's happening for me? And is it the situation that's not put me at peace? Or is it triggering um, a memory, an emotion maybe that I haven't really took the time to understand? Um, and so in that reflecting moments, and one of the things, since we were talking about journaling, one of the things I often suggest is a reflection journal, rather than trying to put that pressure to journal every day or every other day or whatever. I often suggest like a reflection journal, maybe a once a week, where you reflect on the week that you had, and you also give yourself time to plan for your upcoming week as much as you can. But that whole protecting your peace thing and knowing what's good for you and not good for you, you have to understand you first. Sorry, did I
No, that
veer
is
off in a direction that you
no,
weren't
no, no.
ready for?
That is the big A1 number one piece
Mm-hmm.
right there. If we do not spend enough time, dedicate, commit time to learning about ourselves, we then try to show up and connect with other people in relationship and situations and environments. And because we've done a poor job spending time with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we we are a sometimes a poor representation of who we can be, right? And we won't know, Zakia, if I am protecting my peace or I'm avoiding.
Mm-hmm.
Because knowing that I am knowing my triggers, knowing the things that set me off, I need to know that. The only way I know that is being honest with myself. Being honest with myself, not necessarily to have to broadcast it to the world,
Mm-hmm.
but being honest with myself to say, you know what? I know I do this when, right?
Blank. Yep.
So, Zakia could tell you one of my biggest things to do that just allows me to decompress is I will walk around the store and shop.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I just am browsing, putting stuff in a cart, and many times, I leave the cart right there.
Yes, you
But the
do.
process of just doing that just brings me down several notches,
Mm-hmm.
right? But to know when I'm on 10.
Yeah, when you're dysregulated.
Yeah, know when I am not feeling myself.
Mm-hmm.
Know when I am something we've been talking a lot more over the years, knowing that when something is bothering me, to talk about it and not in the vein of wanting to keep the peace,
Mm-hmm.
right? Don't say anything, but it's written all over my face. My whole
Mm-hmm.
countenance
Mm-hmm.
tells you that
Mm-hmm.
something is
Which
wrong.
is why I say, and I'm not gonna lie, I got this from somewhere on the internet, and it was worded so eloquently that I don't remember. Sorry, but that idea of avoiding the confrontation or the discussing things, you're not keeping the peace. You're maintaining the tension because even if the person doesn't know that you're upset, the tension is inside you.
Hmm.
Right? You're feeling it in your body, your mind, the way that you're reacting as all that tension. So one of the things, since we were talking about tools, is, and this one is hard for some people because it requires you to really sit in it, but kind of gauging where you feel some of those emotional reactions in your body, right? Is your chest beating really fast? Or you notice your heart rate is higher? I know my watch tells on me all the time. It'll be like your resting heart rate's a little higher than it's supposed to be. I'm like, yeah, I know. Makes just leave me alone.
Those
um,
technology devices, man.
or are your palms sweaty? Are you feeling this urge to get up and run?
Mm.
Do you feel the weight on your shoulders? Do you feel like you want to cry but you can't quite get the tears? What's happening to your body? Because just like you said before, your body is going to tell you, right? So what is my body doing? Because sometimes you don't know the why, but you can at least figure out, okay, well, how's it affecting me? And then you can go from there. And if you are not in therapy, which I suggest it for everyone, there are tools and there's information out there where you can say, well, I'm experiencing this or I'm feeling this. What is that? What could it possibly mean? Just like you do when you have an ailment and you want to figure out, if you need to go to the doctor. It's similar. You can
Hmm.
do things like that to give you a little information so that you know, okay, well, this is just how anxiety shows up sometimes. And anxiety doesn't mean or doesn't have to mean that um, you struggle with anxiety and need to be medicated, but you might just be anxious, um, worried, unsure, uncertain, scared,
Hmm.
kind of like I said before, of the unknown, of the what ifs. Um, are you over functioning in moments when you really know you don't have it? That could be a sign of some depression. Like there are different things that happen and your body is going to tell you, but sometimes you have to just sit. And I'm not saying you have to meditate, but sometimes you need to just take a moment and say, like, hey, what's going on?
I don't know why people have this word around meditation, but the ability to pause and really just deep breath and get in tunes. We get caught up in names and labeling,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a common practice that's been done for ages around the world. And anyway, off my
And
soapbox.
are you taking deep breaths, kind of with what you're
Yeah, because
saying? Like,
remember I would tell you I find myself shallow breathing,
mm-hmm.
and so I'm consciously aware that
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking breath or find myself holding my breath.
Yeah. And so one of the, I guess, kind of the easiest ones for a lot of people to remember is like it's called a few different things: box breathing or the 4-4-4, which is the taking an inhale through your nose for a count of four, holding on to that breath for a count of four, exhaling out of your mouth for a count of four. I usually recommend doing it 4 times so it just keeps you in the realm of four, the 4-4-4-4. It's easier to remember. Um, it doesn't require a lot of effort, mental and emotional capacity effort, but you're able to kind of catch your breath, get that deep, real full breath that you're supposed to be having, and let it out. And I always say on that last one, kind of do a big, like real big exhale and shake it
Could we?
out when you're done. Yeah, like a real big, and kind of shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it,
Yes,
shake it.
like, can you all do that? Like, can we just all do a together, like, and just shake it out? Let's just shake it out, cause that statement about our awareness of ourselves and listening to our bodies, knowing who we are, being in tuned, um, listening to yourself,
Mhm.
tuning out a lot of the outside noise so that you can actually hear you. Sometimes we've been just so consumed with having to hear something else and we forget what silence sounds like.
Yeah, and some other things, some other tools. If you are someone that struggles with some anxiety or maybe your nerves are bad, I know that's a lot of the older generation like saying my nerves are bad. That's anxiety, babes.
She calling us out. She calling
That's
us out.
anxiety. Your nerves are bad. You have anxiety. It's okay. It's okay.
Labels, Kia.
It's okay. But it's not so much about getting caught up in the label because that's the same with, like I was talking about before, my ADHD diagnosis, right? It's not about the label, it's the knowing. You know what you're dealing with, so then you give it the correct medicine. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not because you need to say, "Oh, this is my label," and this is, but this is something that you struggle with, or something that you experience from time to time. Sometimes it's not, it doesn't have to be your day to day life, but you experience it from time to time. How do I remedy it, right? So, a lot of times, trying to do the breathing, if you're having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, trying to do the breathing first might make it worse. So, I usually recommend that's when I recommend a grounding exercise. Um, Something like there's the one with the 5 4 3 2 1 method where you're checking in with your senses. Um, and actually, before I explain that, the whole idea of a grounding exercise is to ground you in the present, right? So you're not thinking so much about a past, a future, the what ifs, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. It's bringing you back to now. So there's a lot of different grounding techniques and exercises that are helpful for people. One of the ones a lot of people tend to like is that 5 4 3 2 1. It's very easy to find online. If you look up grounding exercise, you can find an image of it, save it on your phone. So it's 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. And it tells you how to kind of go through it. And you're scanning the room. You can keep it in your mind so no one around you knows what you're doing if you want. But it helps kind of get you set in here. It's almost, think about I Spy, because you can even do I Spy. The same I Spy we used to play when we would take road trips or be in the car for a while or just something to do. When I've been sitting in a doctor's office waiting and I was nervous about getting a shot, the ice. It's just, think of I Spy, right? So you can even say, "I'm gonna point out all of the things in the room that are yellow, all the things in the room that are blue." You can do that too. You can do that with yourself to help get you regulated. It's essentially a distraction, but it's helpful. Or if you need kind of what I was explaining earlier, that physical grounding, you sit down somewhere, sit down on the floor. If you're in a space where you're safe to do so, you can absolutely do that. There's a few different things that you can do in those moments. I always ask my I always ask my clients, and then I have my friends and family ask me this back. But like, what are you doing to pour into you, right? So much of the time, and I think we can kind of circle this back to moms for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So much of the time, we are pouring out, right? You're pouring out of your cup, pouring out of your cup, pouring out of your cup, and everybody says, "Oh, you can't pour from an empty cup," but nobody thinks about, okay, well, how do I refill it? And it's not just about the people around you who are supposed to pour into you as well,
Mm-hmm.
because I think sometimes we rely too much on the people around us
Yep.
to pour back into us. What are you doing to pour into yourself? What are the activities that you do that you know make you feel good? Sometimes it is binge watching that show that you really enjoy. Doesn't mean you do that all the time every day. No, but sometimes you need that afternoon to be like, you know what, I'm gonna put on my show and I'm gonna laugh and I'm gonna enjoy myself. I'm gonna get my water, get my little snack, and chill right here and watch my show. Sometimes it's music. Um, I know that's me. I will throw on a musical. I will throw on a album that I'm really enjoying because I'm the type to listen to an album from start to finish if I really like it. And I'm just gonna put it on, and I'm either gonna dance around my house. Maybe I'm gonna clean a little bit, but not anything too strenuous. But to release it, and sometimes you just need to dance. You need to move. You need to move your body a little bit. Um, there's so many tools that are just everyday things. You don't need to look in a textbook or ask a professional per se for what those tools. Some of them we already do them. You just don't realize it. One of the things, even the internet is talking about how the world is falling apart, and all the black people are learning boots on the ground. Hilarious. But we find joy in community and dancing and music and excitement. Use that.
It's part of our resilience mechanism. Um, I've shared that in several community events that there's a reason for all the trauma and stuff that we've endured as a people,
Mm-hmm.
that we've been able to remain resilient and still be able to create, to laugh, to build, to nurture families, to fight, there's a reason, because in the middle of the chaos, we laughed, we danced, we prayed, we sang,
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
entertainment.
Mhm.
Entertainment is part of how we not just communicate our struggle or but it's how we encourage ourselves, how we tell our story, how we uplift each other. It's how we, um, you know, how we just maintain. Because just sitting too much in the madness, I think it is important that we are balancing learning boots on the ground or
Mhm.
whatever it is we're doing, or the Kendrick Lamar song that I see everybody has a little dance to it, whatever. Um, I just think sometimes we are spending way too much time judging things that don't need to be judged. Um,
Mhm.
and we are sometimes allowing people to um, label or redirect strategies that have worked for us. Nobody knows us better than us.
Yep.
And so,
That part.
yeah, no, everyone, there's so many people can empathize,
Mhm.
but you will not walk in this skin
Mhm.
that we can't exchange. We can't
Yeah.
camouflage it. We
You could
can't
have been
blend it.
you could be walking side to side with someone and having two very different experiences.
Yes.
That's why, you can have siblings grow up in the same household
Right.
and have completely different outlooks and outcomes to their life because we could all be right here, but we're experiencing things a different way. And even even experiences as moms, experiences with family, we all are experiencing things from a different angle. Our perception is our reality. And so we have to acknowledge that.
I would like, as we're winding down,
Hmm.
from your perspective as a daughter,
Hmm.
talk to us moms. Talk to us moms from your perspective on um, what you've seen and some thoughts on recommendations for us. Your observation, moms, me. Um, I have seen. I know for me, I've seen you um, step in and take authority
Hmm.
when I was struggling to take authority in a situation.
Hmm.
I've seen you um, hold space um, in situations. I've seen you navigate. Even when we learned about your ADHD, I know for me, it was like, well, how did I not know that my child needed this?
Hmm.
And so many times as parents, we have this ideology that we're supposed to be perfect,
Hmm.
and that and I would say to you, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm going to fall short. I'm going to make mistakes. Um, we've always talked about, that there would be times that I may be disappointed. I may be upset. I may be hurt or whatever by a decision or action that you've made. But
Hmm.
there's a constant thing you're always going to know. I'm going to love you and I'm going to be there.
Hmm.
That's grounding, right?
Hmm.
And I had to give myself grace
Hmm.
to understand that I didn't know. I didn't know what the signs were. I didn't know to look for it. I didn't.
Hmm.
But as we come into awareness of things, that's an opportunity for us to learn, for us to grow. And that's why us always constantly learning and seeking out information, and not to make the statement that this is who I am and that's it, because we're always growing, we're
Yep.
always evolving, we're
Hmm.
always changing. I'm coming into a new awareness of things. And
Hmm.
so even right now, as I am working on this whole mindset shift on slowing down and being more intentional about my actions and how I'm living my life, that um, I'm seeing opportunities to embrace it, and I'm seeing so many different tentacles to live it.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful. And at the same time, finding myself sometimes a little bit the busiest I've been in a long time.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
say.
All at the same time.
I've noticed. um, so the first thing I would say is, I'm gonna look at the camera for this one. We all make the best decision with the information we have at the time. And when I say information, I don't just mean knowledge, as far as like, oh, the facts. I also mean the emotions that come with a decision, the pros and cons that come with the decision, the unknowns even about the decision, the things that you don't know. We make the best decision, or at least most of us try to. And that's what I would say to moms in general. You made the best decision with the information you had at the time. Whether it was what you were taught from previous generations about how to show up as a woman and as a mom, or what you were taught not to do, or what you wanted to do differently. All the things that you decided, this is what you made the best with what you've had. And does that mean that sometimes that best wasn't exactly what was needed? Sure. But as long as you know that you showed up and you did what you could,
Yeah.
I'd say take that. And it's very easy to get defensive when your children come to you and say, hey, you missed the mark here. Hey, you don't understand what I'm explaining because you just don't care. It's very easy to get defensive, but what I want you to consider is it's not an attack on you. It's not the intent. It's they just want to be heard, they just want to be understood. They just want you to understand the things that you did, even though it was your best. This is how it impacted me. Because sometimes the best intentions make the make harmful impacts,
Absolutely.
right? And so, it's not for you to be ashamed or to feel like, hey, I missed something. I didn't see that my child needed this, or I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know what to offer. It's for you to say, okay, I missed the mark here, but how can I show up now?
Right.
Because while motherhood changes as your children age, you don't stop being a mom.
Nope.
You don't stop being a mom. You will always be their mom
Hmm.
if they allow you to be a part of their life. But some of that has a lot to do with how you show up today.
Yep.
And if you are willing to give yourself grace and acknowledge, hey, I know I didn't always get it right, but I did what I could when I had it with what I had. Now, how can I show up for you in today?
Hmm.
Because if you're still holding on to, oh, well, this is what I had in 1995 and da 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 da. Okay, that's cool. But in 2025, what do you have? What new knowledge have you gained and how can you apply it
Hmm.
for yourself
Hmm.
and for your loved ones?
Hmm. Absolutely. Hmm. Give ourselves some more grace.
And be willing to listen and to learn and to grow and know that there has been changes,
Hmm.
and just like I said, just because something was always done one way doesn't mean it was right, but it also doesn't always mean it was wrong.
Right.
It was what made sense in the moment,
Yeah.
but now the moment has changed.
Yeah.
And so how do we adjust based on the change?
If we can just expect and understand that change is happening
It's
continually, it
inevitable.
doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
No one moment is the same,
Mm-hmm.
right? We are constantly growing and evolving. And if we can just acknowledge that and stop with the comment, oh, you've changed, I'm supposed to,
Absolutely.
right? Or, sometimes we're looking like, oh, how did you get so big? It's called growing, you know? if we can just embrace what this means, this thing called living, this
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, wonderful experience we get. As a mom, you get to be that part of that curation of life. You get to be part of this awesome experience of
Yeah.
nurturing and loving another human being,
Yep.
of bringing guidance and support and protection, and being the motivator and the confidant, and all the
Mm-hmm.
roles that we play as a mom. um, it is so important for the world when we do it with the grace and the commitment and the poise, and from a place of love.
Because that's your job.
If you just started from there, just from that place
Mm-hmm.
of love.
That's the first part of the job description, honestly.
Yeah,
That's the first line item in the job description, love.
yeah,
A lot of the other things you learn along the way.
yeah, yeah. So if we can just learn to do a lot more um, loving, and that means when I love, um, I will bring you knowledge, experience, insight, but I'm going to also bring you correction. In loving, I am going to be able to say, give my perspective, give my insight. I'm also going to be able to provide that level of guidance. I'm also going to be able to say, okay, let me share with you what this action and um, I think the word that I didn't hear us put in our conversation when we were talking about is we got to give context, right?
Mm-hmm.
So many times in our communication, we fail to give context so people better understand. And I really, and especially this generation of young people,
Which
uh,
generation? There's a lot of them now.
I know, but I'm watching.
Depends on what age group we're talking, because we got Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
So I'm watching the elementary, middle, high school,
Okay, that's still a mix of two
all a
generations.
mix, right?
Yeah,
But
and that's Alpha and the younger Gen
I'm
Z, I believe.
watching them all ask for more context.
Hmm.
They're expecting it. Don't just tell me I need some context. And I think
So interesting. They're asking for context in a time when they're trying to remove context, but that's a conversation
I
for
know that's a whole
another
nother
day.
conversation. Um, it is Mother's Day.
Yes.
And I would like to say that the role and the honor of motherhood is a daily thing. And I appreciate the day that's been identified, selected, set aside for us to shine the spotlight on mothers and to honor mothers in all the various forms that they take. We're thankful for the mothers. I'm thankful for all the people who have came along to help mother me. I'm thankful for them, for the love that they have given. I'm thankful for the examples that they've set. Um, I am who I am because of the sum total of all those people who
Absolutely.
poured out from themselves, sometimes what they didn't have to give, but they still gave it
Hmm.
unconditionally with love. And so each day I walk and I show up, I think about those people who have touched my life, those people who are gone but not forgotten because they walk with me each and every day. And as difficult as days like today is, when we love people and when we are walking this thing called being a human being and living, it means we carry the pain of what love and truly loving others mean. And that means we walk with the loss of their absence,
Yeah.
right? We feel that.
Hmm.
And for as long as we are still here and for as long as we still have breath, my desire is how do I honor them by how I live
Yeah.
each day, how I walk, how I show up. Um, and so today and each day, I am seeking to be the better version each day. I'm making the effort each day to how could I be better than I was yesterday. And that's what I'm encouraging each and every one of you to do. Not seek perfection because perfection does not exist,
No, it doesn't.
but to just make the effort, have the desire that I want to love. And I'm going to start by first loving me. And when I take the moments to slow down, whether it's on a Sunday or any day, any moments you take to just pause and to be present and to give yourself the present, give yourself the gift of feeling and living and embracing life to its fullest, that you are truly giving a gift to others. Because when I take care of me, I think about you. And when I don't do a good job of taking care of me, I'm thinking about you. And so I'm inviting us to do that um, more. And so to my mothers and all the mothers, um, happy Mother's Day. But every day is your day. Take every day as a day to love, to celebrate. Buy yourself the rose, do the pampering. Don't just
Mm-hmm.
wait for a special moment.
Mm-hmm.
Live what it means to honor and cherish people and honor and cherish yourself daily. It doesn't have to be extravagant,
No,
but just even in the simplest things, take care of yourself.
absolutely.
That's what my invitation to you as I bring you Slow It Down. Just love you a little bit more as I'm learning to love me a little bit more and honor the commitments I've made to myself.
I like it. Sounds good to me.
This is Arlene Connolly Drummond, and I had the pleasure of sharing and Slow It Down Sundays with my precious daughter, Zakia Becca. And I am so proud of her. And you heard her wisdom, you heard her voice, you heard the excellence that's her. And I'm just
Mm.
excited that I got to share that with you all.
In a
Um,
way, they heard your voice because just like you are who you are because of all those who mothered you, I am who I am because of all those who have mothered me, including and mostly you.
well, I think it's been my honor. So, this is Slow It Down Sundays, and I am Arlene Conley Drummond, your stride coach, and I invite you to share, like, subscribe, and invite others to join us in this sacred space where together we are learning, we are growing, we are evolving, and we are committing to living life and living life with more intentionality, with more love, with more grace and more passion. So we will see you, and hopefully I can encourage Zakia to join me on another episode. See you next Sunday on Slow It Down Sunday. Anything you want to say?
No. See you next time if there is a next time.
I'll try to get her. We'll see what the ratings say. They're going to say, bring her back, bring her back, bring her back. Giving also special thanks to our producer, my dear husband, Michael Drummond from Technicom Media Group, and thank you for producing our show. See you next Sunday on Slow It Down Sundays.